Ooh, that was loud. I am calling this meeting to order of the Pinal County Community College District Governing Board regular meeting. Thank you all for being here. And first order of business, Dr. Ordiorn, could you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, and item number 3, I have the pleasure today of swearing in our newest governing board member, Ruth Smith. So with that, I think you and I need to stand up and, well, raise your right hand. Are we taking a photo? Also, just want to make sure we do this right.
Somebody can with their
Somebody take a. Yes, we would love to. So it's I, state your name.
I, Ruth Smith,
Do solemnly swear that
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution and laws of the state of Arizona,
and the Constitution and laws of Arizona,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
that I will
bear
true faith and
And-
allegiance
to the same,
to the same,
and defend them against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
all enemies, foreign and domestic,
and that I will faithfully
and that I will faithfully
and impartially discharge
and impartially discharge
the duties of the office
the duties of the office
of member of Governing Board of Central Arizona College
of member governing board of Central Arizona College
according to the best of my ability,
according to the best of my ability,
so help me God.
so help me God.
All right. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, now it's official. All right. Okay. Yeah, you're committed now. So the next item is the adoption of agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to adopt the agenda as presented. Any more discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, we have an agenda. And the next item is the call to the public. Mary Lou, do we have anything? No one has signed in? All right, very good. We're moving on to action items. The first one is the consideration of consent agenda. We have 3 items in there. If there is if anyone would like to remove anything off the agenda, if not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent
So
agenda.
made.
All right, thank you, Mr. Walker. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you all. All right, we have another item we're moving to is action items. The first one is Legendary Teacher Day, and I think Dr. Gilliland, you have the honor of presenting this.
Good afternoon, President Kasuga, members of the board. Can you hear me?
Oh. Gladys, is that you?
It is me. I've been trying.
Oh, okay, and yours was as well. We've got you on, and the meeting has started. So can you hear me? Okay, great. Thanks, Gladys.
Thank you.
President Kasuga, members of the board, Dr. Elliott, Mary Lou, colleagues, students, and guests. Thank you for letting us present this item today. I have with me Professor Kara Steiner, who is our lead faculty for the district in education. And is this not working? The light is on. It's working. Can you hear me?
Oh,
I guess so.
I thought I saw a light, but I
there
guess I
it is.
didn't. Okay.
There it is.
Now it's very loud. So we are here collectively to ask the board to consider a resolution to approve supporting Legendary Teachers Day, which will be Thursday, September 22nd. It is coming up quickly. We learned about this recently. Kara was attending the district or the countywide superintendent's meeting, and this was presented at that, and so we learned of it from them. The Legendary Teachers Day actually was established in 2014 by Dr. Nicholas Clement, who was an endowed professor at NAU, but also a longtime advocate for teaching and education in the state and also nationwide. And when he published a book sharing legendary teacher stories, there was a proclamation by the mayor of Tucson to create a Legendary Teachers Day in recognition of teachers. And essentially what we would ask as a part of that resolution is that we set aside that day to recognize legendary teachers and encourage our community to reach out and contact the legendary teachers in their lives and express the gratitude for the difference that they make. So with that, did you want to add anything to that, or?
No, you did great.
Okay, all right. So that is our request, and I think the next step would be for the board to consider that resolution, if you would.
Okay, should I read it? We'll need them. Well, board, any questions of, well, and
Oh,
any
yes, and do you have any
of
questions?
Dr. Gilliland or to Kara? If not, do I have a motion to adopt a resolution in support of Legendary Teacher Day as Thursday, September 22nd, 2022?
So made.
All right, we got a motion and a second on that. Any other discussion? All those, if not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, and then we've got Gladys also. And I will go ahead and read this because this is important to all of us. So we have just now adopted the Legendary Teacher Day, whereas the governing board of Pinal County Community College District believes we have all had special teachers that made a significant difference in our lives, and whereas the Pinal County Community College District Governing Board recognizes that those teachers demonstrated unique skills, allowing them to transform their deep content knowledge into life-changing student learning. And whereas the Pinal County Community College District Governing Board highly values the caring family culture created by those teachers, and whereas the Pinal County Community College District Governing Board understands that we often do not fully understand and recognize the profound influence teachers have on our future until we have lived our future. And whereas the Pinal County Community College District Governing Board realizes the importance of taking time to fully recognize the legendary teachers in our lives, therefore be it resolved that the Pinal County Community College District Governing Board does hereby affirm its support for September 22nd, 2022 as Legendary Teacher Day. And we encourage our entire community to take time on this day and contact the legendary teacher or teachers, right, in your life and express your gratitude for the difference they made in our lives. Thank you, both of you, for this.
Thank you very much.
All right. All right, next item for action is Dr. Odiorn and a team, small team, I'll let him go ahead and describe it. We're charged with drafting a board self-evaluation process. We brought it before the board earlier, and now their work is almost complete. So Dr. Odiorn, if you want to give us an update.
Sure. You have this in your package this month, and it is really not changed from the draft that you saw last month. Cleaned up a little, formatted a little, but otherwise the same as what you saw. So that said, I would just like to remind you of a couple of things. First of all, there's very little change in what we are actually evaluating ourselves on from what was done before. It's based on the Higher Learning Commission Standard 2C, which is essentially board function. And we've reformatted the items that we will evaluate ourselves on. We've added an outside facilitator to help us with that process. And that essentially is our proposal. So you have that. I would, though, just like to point out, you'll remember a couple of years ago, we implemented a new presidential evaluation process. And the first year we did that was a transition year. We had to move into that. We didn't follow the process exactly the way it was laid out the first year. Dates were tough because it came on at the last moment. That is likely to be the case with this too. If we adopt this, there are dates in there. Things supposed to take place in December and so on. They may or may not. If we adopt it, then there has to be work done to get it implemented and so on. So we may need to give ourselves some grace in getting it going, but there isn't anything in it that is particularly date sensitive, really. Some dates are better than others, but they're not terribly sensitive. So that said, I'd be happy to make a motion that the board adopt this proposal.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor. Is there a second? All right, seconded by Gladys. It's been moved and seconded. Is the moved and seconded to adopt this board self-evaluation? Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you so much for all the work. And Dr. Odiorn, that was yourself and Dustin Maroney, and we got Dan Miller.
And Dan Miller.
Our former board member.
Who actually completed the work after he left the board.
Yeah.
So he stayed with us to help.
Stayed with us. Yeah, appreciate it. Well, thank you so much. And I guess we'll leave it to, what is our next step?
The next step is to get it on the schedule and
Have each of us-
leave it to the board chair and
Okay.
the president to figure that out.
Okay.
And certainly, I and Dustin remain available to help with any of the logistics as we put that together.
Okay, great. So board members, look for this new format to come your way, and it's a learning process, as Dr. Odiorn says, so if we don't get it exactly right this time, that's what the process is all about, is just process improvement. And for us to do a better job to be governing board members for this district. So appreciate all the work that you put into this. All right, moving on to the next item is just a series of reports. So the first one from Dr. Elliott.
Good afternoon, governing board members, faculty, staff, and guests. It's my honor to provide a brief district update. To start off, the college has had the good fortune to win a complimentary board training seminar from the American Association of Community Colleges, and this training is valued at over $5,000. So I was very excited that we were selected. We are continuing planning meetings with Pinal County to build a workforce training center at the Superstition Mountain campus. This center would mirror Drive 48, so we continue to engage in those discussions. Once we get further along, then we will obviously bring drawings and renditions for the board to consider as well. Earlier this month, the coaches from Achieving the Dream met with college personnel working on the Guided Pathways projects. Both coaches were extremely complimentary of the work that the college has done so far, and they expressed how impressed they have been with college employees working on the reform efforts. And these are national coaches that work with many institutions, so I was really happy to hear their compliments towards our faculties and staff working on these efforts. And then the last thing I want to share with you is the college has been selected as the Casa Grande Chamber Business of the Week. I believe there's a short little video maybe on the chamber website, and so that was a nice honor for us as well. And that concludes my report. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
All right, any questions for Dr. Elliott? That's a lot of good stuff happening all over our campuses, so. All right, seeing that, I actually have a report to make. So just in summary, so late last year, 2021, a complaint was filed with the Office of the Arizona Attorney General's Office alleging that the Pinal County Community College District Governing Board violated Arizona's open meeting law. And let's see, the governing board was found to be in violation of the open meeting law at the November 16th, 2021 board meeting. And Per the Office of the Arizona Attorney General's office, the letter from the Attorney General, and the contents of which I am sharing with you at this moment in today's public meeting, has been posted on the CAC website on the board page, because it's under the board governance area, and will remain there for 1 year, and all meeting notices and agendas are sent to our legal counsel for review and approval prior to holding its meeting for 1 year from the date of this letter. So this letter was sent to us in August, and it's been up there since that point in time. So I'm just sharing that with the public today, and would just move ahead to our item 11. So with that, Mr. Wodka.
Thank you, and good afternoon, Madam Chair, governing board members. Welcome, Ruth, to the board. Thank you. Madam President, Executive Assistant, and all staff and guests here this afternoon. I have 5 items on the agenda this afternoon. The first one we're going to start with is a presentation on the Superstition Mountain campus. I know you've heard we've been talking about this for about 6 months now. We have both the architects here and the contractor here as well this afternoon. So I'm going to introduce Tom Riley to come up here and walk us through this presentation, and also introduce his staff that are with us this afternoon.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board, Madam President, Executive Director, faculty and staff. I'm Tom Riley with Architecton, and it's my pleasure to show you the results of a 6-month study, and that was developed by about a dozen people in all, maybe a couple more than that. A couple are in the room tonight, along with Dr. Elliott and Mr. Watka, Domingo Barragan and the staff and faculty of the campus, Andrea Ramos from McCarthy, the guy with the camera in his face, Chris Kelly, and next to him, Dan Childers from Architecton, have all been instrumental in putting together the presentation you're going to see. I don't have a clicker, do I? There we go. So this is the existing campus. North is up, so the Old West Highway is at the top, and Idaho Road, which is the exit off of 60 to the campus, is on the west or the left side. You see Building F, which is fairly new, the central plant in the upper left-hand corner, and then buildings A, B, C, and D. If we can go to the next slide. So the first thing we did, or concurrently, the first things that we did was do a feasibility study with the engineers and the builder on the 4 buildings. What we found was, and go next slide, was that they're fairly old, probably 50 or 60 years old. There's no original documentation on them. It looks like they were primarily auto repair and maybe some light retail, masonry construction, very much at the end of their useful life for a number of reasons. The campus on that end has experienced a lot of flood problems. There's been some remediation, and that hasn't solved it. So that is where the existing programs are now. The exception to that part of the recommendation was Building C, because there was a significant investment made in a cafeteria and a full cooking kitchen, and it looks brand new. So the team's advising that we keep that building and do some work on it, and take the other 3 down. The other logistic problem trying to remodel them was what happens to the programs while we're remodeling them? How do we keep those up and running for the community? So it looked like the best move was to look at a couple of new buildings. If you go to the next slide. So we developed with the faculty and the staff some great workshops to understand how the project would be judged a success and what were the key vision and goals of the campus. And you can see on the right side there some very lofty goals, some great goals, world-class learner experience and a great place to work. You know, it's all about getting faculty and retaining students, right? Adaptable is a really big issue. So how do we keep these? So we know that these programs are going to change over the life of the building. How do we leave you with a building that's fairly easy to remodel and adaptable with those unknown changes are happening, along with, you know, good infrastructure and providing a great place for students to be. Next. So 3 programs came out of this, the Allied Health Careers. Most of them exist on the campus now. The esthetician would be a new program and would also create a swing space if there was a program that you wanted to bring in and kind of substitute for these. And then we looked at skilled trades on the next slide. So 2 of those programs currently exist on campus, the electrical and the HVAC. The concept here is to build a very large, single sort of shop classroom space so that everybody could see what everybody was doing, because when they get on a job site, they're going to be working next to each other. They'll share an exterior lab. And then finally, we would need to replace the arts program, which is a big draw for the community, both ceramics and art lab. So in Building C, there were 4 existing, in addition to the cafeteria, there's 4 existing computer classrooms. They need to be brought up to speed and renovated. And then we were also looking for a place and found it in Building C for facilities, both for a couple of offices and some storage space. So the total program on the next slide looks like that. Again, with knowing that some of these programs are going to change out as we move in. On the next slide, we're proposing 2 new buildings. So on the upper part, we combined the skilled trades with the arts program just to kind of economize and save some money there. And then a standalone allied health building. Also some new parking for the students that this will draw and the community that'll draw. And then of course, some walkways and some shade to get people across the campus. So that would look like from the entry, if you go to the next slide. So this is a bird's eye looking at the Allied Health in the front, the F building in the back, and skilled trades on the left. The next slide would be from the entry at ground levels. This is what you would see when you come in, maintaining that amazing view of the Superstition Mountains. Then as you get closer to the Allied Health, on the next slide, you'll see that on the west side, there's an entry that's devoted to the community because we'll be bringing community members in for massages and appointments with the estheticians. So it provides a great amenity for the community as well as the ability for the students to learn on the job. Then the next slide is the other side. This would be the student entry towards campus. Again, these are really early design concepts. Really what we're trying to say is courtyard and shades with it is really appropriate way to go. And then the skilled trade building on the next slide. I'm sorry, the cafeteria we're proposing, the only really addition over there is let's get some shade and let's get some additional outdoor dining out there to expand the seating capacity. And then the skilled trades, or sorry, skilled trades and the art complex. So the idea here is to put the art on display because it's the really fun thing to see. So let's show people that it's here. Let's retail it a little bit. We would also want to open up the skilled trades too so that people can see that it's there and what's going on in there. Okay. And then finally, just the idea of the shade, whether that happens with built things or with landscape. We're finding it's more and more important for all of our campuses. This campus is a really good example of doing it well. So that concludes our report. Open to any questions.
Any questions of our architects?
I did not, yes.
Go ahead, Sherry.
I did not expect to see this today. It's a surprise to me. And I'm glad that we're doing something in Apache Junction, the forgotten city in Pinell County. And I would like to see more development on that campus. And I've got some suggestions that we can make, and we can talk about those at a different time.
Okay, great, thank you. Any other questions or comments regarding this project? Looks exciting. That one campus needed a refresh.
Mm-hmm. And they're very excited about it. They're all really great people.
I bet they are.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. All right, Mr. Watka, you've got other items.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. The next item is the monthly budget report. In your packet, you'll see the first month of the new fiscal year, being July of '22. It shows the district operating fund expenditures at about 7.19%, which is about a 2.6% increase from July of 2021, which was at about 4.5%. So the year has just started as far as the new reporting. Second item is the awarded bids, over 20,000. There are 19 of them listed in your report. I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have on any of those 19 that are listed. There's also listed a cover page for all of our externally funded grants. This is just for your information. At the current date, we have $23.2 million in externally funded grants. It's just for your information. If you see your consent agenda, as we get new grants on a monthly basis, we ask for formal consent approval. Many of these have already been approved. Others will be forthcoming in the future to you. But I thought it'd just be a good idea to share with you all of the grants listed in one place and their respective dollar amounts. And the last item is the intergovernmental agreements. This is something we bring to you on an annual basis. This lists out all of our AGAs that we engaged with over the last fiscal year, along with any of the memos of understanding. So all the IGAs and memos of understanding, and there are a total of 24 that we engaged with this prior fiscal year. Would there be any questions on any of the reports?
It certainly demonstrates our collaboration and working with any number of other institutions and organizations throughout the county. So that's good. That's what we do.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Wodka. Item 12, Dr. Gilliland, you're up again.
Greetings again, and can I get, so I have to ask you to change it, is that, okay, perfect. Okay, so good afternoon and thank you again. I have a brief presentation about one of the academic projects that feeds into our strategic plan. And this is a project that focuses on adoption of open educational resources. And I have shamelessly included a photograph here. I needed a visual. This is actually the cover of a hard copy of an OER that I've written a chapter for. It's something I started working on before I came to CAC, but CAC gets a little acknowledgement in there as a result of my being here now. So that's just a little bit of a visual. So OERs are free textbooks. They're created by professors or specialists for students. The really good quality open educational resources are peer reviewed. You know, there's a lot of stuff out there, but we want to make sure that the materials we're using for teaching and learning are properly vetted, just the way any textbook would be. Most of them are available only in digital format. So typically a textbook that would be adopted that's an open educational resource is available. There's a link that's provided to students, and they can simply download it and use it, and there is absolutely no cost. There are quite a few of them that do have the option of a hard copy, and typically these are also much less expensive than regular books. CAC students tend to like hard copies. Our bookstore does order, copies of those for the ones that we've adopted, and they do get purchased. But typically they're somewhere between $25 and $50, which is a lot less expensive than, our typical textbooks that run, into the hundreds of dollars. So. I had to include this. It's a new concept in that people are creating entire textbooks, and they're doing it without payment. They're doing it for the love of helping students and for sharing, they're experts in their field. People get very excited about this work, and, it's just wanting to get the knowledge out there, and just the realization as well that sometimes the greatest hardship students face is not paying their tuition, but actually purchasing their textbooks. At CAC, the textbooks can be much more expensive than the tuition. And, that's just really hard on our students. So we like to see us moving in a different direction. But previously, a lot of faculty were pretty innovative and would use a collection of readings. They'd get limited copyright permissions and put things together. They oftentimes worked with our library professionals to get materials through databases. And so there are a lot of ways of getting materials that are free of cost. But the nice thing about the open educational resource textbooks is that things are really packaged in a more complete way, so that you can really adopt a single textbook or maybe a supplemental textbook and be ready for a class. So CAC's OER project is an initiative in our current strategic plan, or at least it feeds into it. It's one of the main projects in the academic side. And I went through and did a hand count. We don't have a great count of who all is using them. We actually had faculty who started adopting and or even creating materials before the initiative really launched. Right now, we have about 108 class sections, and this is out of 750, so this is not a huge amount, but about 108 that actually use open educational resources. And that means that those books would be, if the students follow the directions that faculty give them and download the free digital copy, they would be absolutely free. And something I didn't include in the PowerPoint, but I should have, is what the typical cost savings is. And the typical cost savings for the books that or the materials we've adopted so far at CAC are anywhere between $75 to $150 per student per class that has adopted. And we have a projected total savings at this point per course number. So for each course number and the sections in that course number, anywhere from $7,200 to $45,000 savings collectively for our students, just in a single semester for being able to use those free materials. So I think that's a pretty dramatic statement. And the typical savings is $25,000 to $35,000, so that's about where we are. So typically at CAC at the moment, there aren't too many people who are writing materials, but there's a lot of great stuff out there. And our faculty are adopting textbooks, and then they're creating the supporting materials to go with them, because one of the downsides of these materials is that usually they don't come with supports like PowerPoints and test banks and all of those things, which people usually don't just adopt wholesale, but they use them for ideas. So when you're adopting an OER, you're pretty much creating all those materials from scratch. But again, it's pretty exciting. To that number, 108, if we add the English 101 and 102 books, and I didn't really consider those typical open educational resources because they are not completely free at any point, but we do have a set of materials created for English 101 and 102 by our faculty. Now, a lot of the readings that they've selected are things that are written by other people. They work very hard. They've got those copyrighted, but they have created all the text, all the things that link it together, all the materials that, are really part of the teaching, part of the textbook. They did their own editing. Of course, as English faculty, they're good at that. But it was a lot of work. It was a labor of love. They're also in their second edition. If we look at that savings, that is also now in a digital format for students. Students do pay a fee for those books. It's a small fee, and I don't have the exact figure in my mind. When it was the actual book, it was about $50, but it's a little bit less now with digital, or actually quite a bit less. That's an additional 70 sections. So if we add that all up, we have 178 sections that are using them at the moment. These books are great. The students can use them for both 101 and 102 for English, and a lot of students take those classes. The fees that students pay go into a fund that are used for scholarships for CAC students. So it actually is a return back to the students, and so it's been a really nice benefit. Okay, so one more. We've been able to help support some of the faculty work with some of our CARES dollars from the, and we now have we are sub-recipients of a statewide grant that is a rural colleges effort to adopt and share information about these open educational resources. So in that grant consortium, we are actually pledging to, when we create supporting materials for a textbook, to post them on a common hub and share them with other people. So there's a lot of dialogue going on around the state among faculty in a huge variety of disciplines for this. And we've got this year and one more year for the grant. So our goal this year is to create 10 more courses supported by the grant. And this is really, faculty get a nominal fee. They get up to 80 hours at an adjunct rate to help develop materials to support these things. And that's a one-time, and then they have to share them. So our goal is to do 10 more courses this year, 10 more next year. We'll probably have more during the summer. Our 5-year goal is to have 75% of our courses that use textbooks using open educational resources, and to actually have those be completely free for our students. So, and that is the end of my presentation, but I'd be happy to entertain any questions.
Yeah, any questions for Dr. Gilliland? This is exciting, wave of the future, and making the college accessible.
We hope this will help make CAC a great place to work and also a great world-class learning environment.
All right, great.
So, all right, thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, item 13 on the agenda is adjourned, so I'm just going to declare that, and our next meeting is October 18th back at Signal Peak Campus. Thank you all for being here today, and thank you for our guests for making the trip over here. Meeting is adjourned.